What is up, YouTube? I am here with the top 10 BM perks for Survivor of Dead by Daylight. This is very much like the killer list that I just put up. The only difference is I want to do it from the Survivor side. Now, unlike the killer list, which was very easy to put together, I came up with 11 perks. I cut one out real easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Survivor is very different. So, first off, let's talk about the two reasons why survivors have more BM perks. And we're going to talk about why there are some perks that aren't on the list. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the perks that aren't on the list. So just like on the killer video, how I did not just throw red rank toxic perks that you see a lot on the list because, oh my god, all red ranks run that. Oh my god, all killers run barbecue. You cannot, for the same reason, why? I'm not putting all the survivor perks on here, okay? I am not putting things like adrenaline, on our borrowed time, dead hard on this list. Just because a perk is run at a high level does not mean that it's a toxic perk. Just because a perk can be used as a BM move doesn't mean that it actually is. So a great example of this, I'll give a couple of mentions. Dead Hard. Dead Hard is not a perk that is a BM perk by default. It is basically designed to let you extend chases slightly longer. Just because you as a survivor can use it to piss off a killer doesn't mean it's actually there. In addition to that, Dead Hard doesn't work half the fucking time. Why are you complaining about Dead Hard being such a toxic perk? You know, the survivor mains out there that are saying, they need to know, this is all unfairness, okay? The survivor that is shitting on the killer running 4 crutch perks, that is them themselves running 4 crutch perks, yeah, stay in your lane there, okay? Okay, let's calm down. Adrenaline is another perk that's not on here. It's basically a reward for the survivor if they made it to the end of the game. You know, you get that burst of speed, you get the exhaustion override, and you get a heal. Whichever one of those you need, you're gonna get. So, it's nice, but I mean, there is an activation cost. You know, Borrowed, just because Borrowed is used by high-level Survive with Friends group to just all unhook right in the killer's face, that doesn't mean that the design of the perk is intentionally toxic. The perk is designed to counter camping or tunneling killers, which is a very high occurrence at lower ranks. So, it's a perk that you use specifically to prevent certain types of killers from, well, killing you. Now, that's why some of these perks are not on here. And there are some perks that can be incredibly toxic that I'm not putting on here. For example, I'm not putting Urban Immersion on here, okay? This is a very annoying perk to me as a survivor. When I see another survivor that is just urban immersioning around the entire game. It's not really a toxic perk, though, for you. I mean, unless you're going up against a hag, I guess you could call it a troll pick, but, I mean, bruh, shut up. So, why is the survivor list so much harder to do than the killer list? Well, that's because you have to worry about 2 different types of pissing people off. First, you have to worry about pissing off the killer. Then you have to worry about pissing off survivors. Because, yeah, that's right, you forgot. You bitches gotta share. There are 4 survivors and 1 killer. So, 1 survivor is more likely to piss off one of the other 3 survivors than they are the 1 killer. So, with that, let's get into it. Okay? We'll start off the number 10 slot with Red Herring. Red Herring is a relatively new perk. By the way, I forgot to mention, my honorable mention perk, the one I had the hardest time cutting out, is Medal of Man. I'm not gonna say why where is it at? I can't, there it is. I'm not gonna say why I cut it out. You can read the description, that'll give you the information, see if you can figure it out on your own. A little fun little experiment you can do in your little imagination land. Alright, Red Herring, number 10. Why is it on here? So what it does is, after you work on a generator for 3 seconds, the perk will activate, and whenever you get into a locker, the generator you were working on for 3 seconds will have a loud noise notification, and then the perk goes on cooldown. Why is this perk a BM perk? Well, it actually fits both categories. It pisses off killers, and it pisses off survivors. So, you want to know how you piss off your teammates? You work on a generator for 3 seconds, and you get onto the locker right next to it. And it goes off. And the killer comes running over. And you're sitting there like, ha ha, get off my generator. It's not nice. It's a very bad move. You should be ashamed of yourself. It's funny! Don't get me wrong, it's funny as fuck. But it can also blow up in your face if the killer's like, oh, you know, they're probably on, they blew this gen and they probably hid in the locker, and you get pulled out of the fucking locker. You brought the killer over for your own demise. It makes it even funnier, which is why it's also a little bit lower, because it can backfire tremendously. But it's mostly a way to piss off the killer. If you have 4 survivors that are running this perk, and they all decide to blow up different gens at the same time, and every 40 seconds they just set off all the gens again, and you're like, how are you people this bad? Where is this all coming? It can be a bit of an annoyance to killer. By itself, it's not too toxic, but you know, I'm still throwing it in there. And at number 9, we're going to be putting in Deliverance. Deliverance is, again, this is not a bad perk. This is actually a pretty strong perk. There is an activation cost. You need to get a safe hook rescue. Now, this can lead to some BMing if you are making a hook rescue right in the killer's face in the hopes of, okay, he'll come after me figuring there's borrowed time, and I'll go down, and I'll have Deliverance afterwards. That can be a bit of a dick move if you don't have borrowed. And it can be a bit of a dick move even if you do have borrowed, if you just unhook and then run away. Then we have where it double BMs. So again, this is like red herring. This can piss off both. So first off, Deliverance can be used to just piss off other survivors by unhooking themselves right in their face after they have left a generator that maybe 99% to come over and get your ass off hook, and you just unhook in front of their face and sit there and teabag. Yeah, fuck you. And then there's the double whammy of if you unhook yourself in front of the killer's face, knowing you have something like Breakdown or Decisive, and you're just like, fuck you, I don't give a shit, I'm gonna unhook in your face. Or if you know there's Devour Hope, and you're like, fuck this shit, and you just get off the hook right in front of their face so they don't get this, and it's like, are you kidding me? It's a bit of a dick move to run this perk, but why is it so low on the list? Well, because it has an amazing value if you're a solo queue player. If you're a solo queue player, you don't have to worry about another survivor coming in and hooking you. You can just do it yourself. It is a bit of a time saver for you as a survivor because it's like, hey, you know, I don't have to worry about my team putting themselves out of position, maybe bringing the killer back over to me. I can just unhook myself. So it has some value. I'm not going to shit on it, but it's still kind of a dick move perk. 3 perks will be sharing the number 8 spot on the list. 3 separate fucking perks. Okay? 3. I'm putting Aftercare, Bond, and Empathy all in one. Alright, these are specific survivor BMs. So this is very specific. This is for pissing off other survivors. How do you piss them off, dare I say? Well, you have Empathy, which lets you see the auras of injured survivors. You have Bond, which lets you see the aura of all survivors within a certain range. And you have Aftercare, which anytime you unhook or heal, or another survivor unhook or heals you, you can see each other's auras anywhere. Well, if you're in a chase and you see an injured person who's a much more tantalizing target to a killer, or 2 allies working on a generator that's close to completion, or a survivor who's attempting to make an unhook, wouldn't it be just so bad if you just ran by them with the killer chasing you? Wouldn't that be such a horrible thing to have happen to you? I know, right? However could I have planned on the killer coming over to you? Yeah. Fuck these perks. These perks are low-key ways to just sandbag your team and fuck them over. So I put them on this list for the sheer fact that they all have some value in sandbagging the rest of the team. At number 7, we're gonna talk about perk. It has viability. It's very low. It's no mythic. Do you like being injured all game long? Do you like loudly moaning and making grunting noises? Like you're about to take a shit with every step you take? Well, boy, I've got a perk for you. It's called No Mither, or No Mither if you want to be fancy. What does this perk do? Well, it means you're permanently fucking injured and you've got a giant target on your back for the killer to tunnel you all game. And if you got an Oni, you're just feeding them free blood, like some kind of sadistic vampire bird feeder. And if the killer's running Thanatophobia, you've permanently set back your entire team. But why would you run such an illustriously success? Well, it lets you get up from the dying state as many times as the killer will let you. And I say that because there's a giant fuck you sign on your back that says, I'm getting up in No Mither. And in addition to that, No Mither causes you to not leave trails of blood. For the few killers that track off of blood. And your grunts of pain by injuries are reduced by 50%. Wait, I'm always injured? Wait, there's a perk that reduces it by 100%? Oh. Why am I running this perk again? Well, what value does No Mither have? Well, No Mither has value in two things. So first, you can run it in an injury build, which is resilience. So you always have resilience. You know, you could run it with Dead Hard, because, hey, you'll always have Dead Hard. Except when you're exhausted, because you used it. Or, hey, you could even run it in an I can't believe it's not get out of jail free card type build, with fucking Unbreakable or Tenacity, so you can get up as many times as the killer lets you, because, you know, there's a giant fuck you on your back that's sitting there telling you, hey, I'm gonna get up in your face. I don't know if it's more a BM to the killer, like, fuck you, brah, I'm better than you, I don't need an extra hit. Or I don't know if it's a BM to the other survivors, a fuck you, I'm not gonna let you heal me. But it's some form of a BM. It's some form of a fuck you. So, it's making the list. And we have back-to-back David perks. Yes, David is here to give you all the toxicity you need. It's We're Gonna Live Forever. We're Gonna Live Forever is a great perk. It gives you up to double blood points every single game. Problem. It requires you to farm your teammates. It requires you to get safe unhooks or take protection hits, which means you're going to have a survivor that is following your ass all game long trying to take a hit for you, or just fucking unhooking you right in the killer's face. Is this perk effective? Yes. Is this perk slightly toxic? Abso-freaking-lutely. This perk is basically I see you as a cash cow and not as a fellow survivor. So fuck you, give me money. Quite literally, actually. It is the fuck you, give me money perk of the game. It is like, no. I don't care. You go on that hook until I pull you off of it. And it's not really a bad perk unless you farm somebody with it. But how many times have you gone into a game solo and had a random running We're Gonna Live Forever and they just farmed for no fucking reason? And the next BM Survivor perk that we have, which will also be the last BM Survivor perk that we have, I want to put that out there, at number 5, Left Behind. Left Behind, what does it do? Well, when you are the last survivor remaining in the trial, you will see the aura of the hatch within 32 meters. This is open or closed. Doesn't matter, you will see it. Well, here's the problem with this perk. It's basically a giant sign to the rest of the team. I am not getting you off. I am not getting you out. I am getting hatch. Fuck you and die for me. Just giant flashing neon sign. Maybe twirl it around a little bit. That's Left Behind. Left Behind is I do not have any faith in my team, so I'm bringing this perk. It's a perk that you run because you're saying that the rest of the team is going to die, and you need to run 3 perks to get you through the game. But instead of an endgame perk, because you know you're not going to get there, you just run Left Behind. Yeah, this is not a very nice perk to run. You're not going to get to use it either too much. It only works when you're the last survivor remaining. Which means all of your teammates have to be dead. Now, should you maybe choose to facilitate their early demise, to use this perk, well, one would never know, now, would they? Yeah, Left Behind is kind of a dick move. So this is actually a surprisingly meta perk that I'm putting on the list at number 4, and that's Head On. Now, I didn't want to put exhaustion perks on the list, but Head On needs to take a spot. Head On is the only exhaustion perk besides Adrenaline that does not require you to be running in order to use it. Well, what does it do? You get into a locker for 3 seconds, and then you can jump out of the locker and stun the killer if they're nearby. This has 2 effects. 1, this can be used as a way to stun the killer, similar to a pallet stun where no pallet is available. 2, this can be a way to free a survivor who is in the killer's grasp. If the killer walks by the locker unannounced and then BAM! Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Yeah, that survivor's getting off. It's a bit of a BM move. It has some serious value, but Head On is mostly just a way to aggravate a killer and be like, really? Did you really just head on me there? It's a solid perk. It does its job, but it's one of those things that, do you really wanna use it? Alright. So now we have our number 3 perk. The almighty pebble itself. Diversion. Diversion is a perk that lets you, as a survivor, sit in the killer's terror radius, if you're not in chase, for 45 seconds, fill your little meter up, and then you can crouch. And you can press X. Pew! And you can throw a pebble over there. And it creates a diversion for the killer. Hence the name. Diversion. And half the killers in the game ignore it. So why are they here? Well, because how do you use diversion? Yeah, diversion is a great way to fuck over a killer. If you're teabagging the killer, you just stand there and throw a pebble in their face and go, ha! Here, eat my pebble. It's not a very good perk. Does it have a lot of value? It's mainly there to piss off and annoy killers with constant diversions. But oh boy, if it's not fun to run. This is one of my guilty pleasure perks. I love running diversion. I think it's a lot stronger than people give it credit for. I'm in the minority on that. It's the pebble perk. The almighty pebble itself, there is no way you can not think that the pebble is not a toxic perk. You can throw a pebble at a teammate, too. Hey, fuck you, you blew my gen. Eat a pebble. Have fun with the killer. And at number 2, we have, where is it? Object of Obsession. This is a perk that is specifically designed to piss off a killer. It is a very attention-grabbing perk because the way it works is that when you are outside of the killer's terror radius, oh boy, you can see the fucking killer! You spawn into the game and you can see who the killer is at the start of the game, removing any and all fucking doubt in their mind as to who it is. It's like, hi, I see you, Mr. Trapper. That's a nice bear trap you set over there. Don't mind me, I'm just gonna come over and disarm it. Plink. Hi, Mrs. Hag. Oh, that's a very nice trap that you laid there. It'd be a shame if somebody happened to have a flashlight. Click, click, click. Yeah, fuck this perk. This perk is not at all serious. 9 out of 10 killers, when they see an object of obsession, are gonna go, oh, piece of candy, and go over and tunnel the goddamn obsession. Why? Well, because you're running object of obsession. It's literally in the fucking name. It's object of obsession. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? You tunneled me with object. You're a baby killer. Bitch, you brought object of obsession. What the fuck did you expect? So, here are things not to do while running object of obsession. Unhook other survivors. Heal yourself or other survivors. Do generators. Do totems. Cleanse chests. Open gates. Remain still for longer than 1 second for any fucking activity in the game. Teabag. Crouch walk. All of these things are things you should not be doing with Object of Obsession. Why? Well, because the killer's gonna see that you're not running away from them, and they're gonna come over and kill you. And you say, well, what can I do with Object of Obsession? You can run. That's about it. To be fair, this perk does actually have some use. It's a very good survive with friends perk. One person runs this. They can see what killer it is. They can see what the killer is doing. They can see where they're at. But it requires very good, knowledgeable information. You have to make call-outs all the time. This is the killer. This is what they're doing. This is where they're at now. They're about to go on this person. It works better if you have another survivor aura reveal, such as a kindred, a bond, an empathy, an aftercare. This also directly leads to the self-toxicity in that, oh yeah, the killer's chasing me. Well, I'm just gonna run over to this person that I see with empathy. Bye! Have fun with the killer! So, it can BM the survivors a little bit. It's also a very good way to get yourself killed. If you're trying to fuck your team over and you're like, fuck this shit, you just run No Myth or an Object of Obsession and run over to the killer at the start of the game and go, kill me. Do it now. Yeah, kind of. But Lori has a dirty double-double, and that is the most toxic BM survivor perk of the game, as Decisive Strike. Decisive Strike is the only real meta crutch perk I wanted to put on here. I'm not really going to consider head-on like a meta crutch perk. It is a bit of a crutch perk, and it is a bit of a meta perk, but I wouldn't call it a meta crutch perk. Decisive is. You see Decisive in about 90% of red rank games. What does it do? Basically, if the killer tries to, I don't know, even remotely look at you for 60 seconds after you've been unhooked, well, yeah, they just stab you in the back with whatever the fuck they have on hand. I don't know how they do it. They just manifest a knife out of air to stab you in the back with. Like, I always find it funny, like, if a female or a male character, it doesn't matter, I'll always make the joke, I'll just change up. It's like, I wonder where you were hiding that shiv, huh? Man, you made it through customs with that. You need to be my freaking drug smuggler, man. It's just so ridiculous watching the perk in action, too. Like, little old Laurie Strode getting... No, Laurie. Little old Kate Denson can't be more than 5 feet tall, 100 pounds, soaking wet. He just gets picked up by big fucking Mike Myers, and then all of a sudden he's just standing there going, like Peter Griffin, because she just stabbed him with an invisible hair knife. But in all seriousness, what does Decisive do? Well, if you can force a killer to grab you, which is not hard, you can slow vault, you can stay on a generator, you can go down and hope the killer picks you up, you can jump into a locker. These are all ways to activate the perk. It basically means that you get a skill check that pops up, and if you hit it, it stuns it for 5 seconds and lets you run away. It is a good get out of jail free card, but the reason why it's designed to deter a camping or tunneling killer, and the reason why it's such a meta perk is because most survivors can just force a killer to do it. They can slow vault a window, which a killer is naturally going to try and grab you off of because you fucked up, and they get hit with it. You can just jump into a locker, and if it doesn't think how long it's been since you've been hooked, they can just eat the stun for free. It's part of an even more toxic combo, which is known as the Bam Bam, by running head-on with this, so you can then, after the 5-second stun is head on them and get a second stun as well. It's part of another worse combo called the Triple Bam Bam, which features head-on and diversion, which we've already covered, where you throw the pebble at the killer, then jump in the locker, then get pulled out of the locker, then go back into the locker while they're stunned from Decisive, then jump out of the locker and head on them and stun them, and this is part of the ultimate Bam Bam combo. You see where I'm going with this? By the way, the ultimate Bam Deliverance. And I wanted to make sure that all of those perks made this list, because that is basically the biggest fuck you build to the killer in the game. You Deliverance off the hook, you diversion over to the locker, you jump into the locker with Decisive, you jump out of the locker with Decisive. When they pull you out, you jump back into the locker with head on, you jump back out of the locker with head on, and by that point you just teabag and flashlight blind them because you've already fucking stunned them twice and pissed them off royally. So yeah, Decisive is the BMEest perk of the Survivor side. And I hope you all enjoyed. Later.